Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Chris here, cgaviator, back in the cockpit of the F-35, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about air-to-air refueling. And that's coming from someone who has done it for real many times. KC-10, KC-135, VC-10, TriStar, even the Voyager. So I've been around the block a few times, flying the Tornado GR4. And in this video I'll give you some tips and tricks on movement around the tanker. But you can also use these tips and tricks on any aircraft that you want to do probe and drogue refueling. So here we are with this aircraft with the airshow assistant, and we'll get to it. So I'm going to position myself back there and just talk about the rejoin first. So to get there I'm going to do a bit of a lag roll. Not that you normally do this, but it looks cool as, so we'll do it. Yes. Nice. So what you would do is you would contact your GCI, you would tell them you want the tanker, they'll give you a vector to it, they'll give you the frequency for the tanker, you'd contact the tanker on the back box and say we'd like to join. You'd always join 1,000 feet low so that you're deconflicted with them, and you get vectored in. You do your pre-join checks, you make sure your radar was off and your weapons weren't active, so they were safe before joining, and then you'd call visual to the tanker, tell GCI that you're visual, and you'd carry on with the tanker. So that's pretty much where we are now. You can also use before you join, of course, you can always use the radar, so you can see we've hooked him at 19,000 feet and 0.6, which is pretty cool. He's flying at 280 knots. That's a typical, well, I guess it's a typical speed, depends on your aircraft, but a good speed to go for if you want to do fast jet refueling. And you can also do various speed things. Normally you'd have an air-to-air TAC and you could reference, but I'm just using the speed at which he's moving back in the cockpit, and I'm keeping about 20 knots overtake is a safe number as we go. For Brits, we'll go to observation left. There's reform on the right hand side, observation on the left hand side, and then depending on your tanker and the SOPs, you might want to formate to the rear of the tanker or to the front of the tanker. So to the front you can say hello to the captain, to the rear you can say hello to the boom operator. So this is Americans, probably a boom operator or some sort of camera system in these modern days. So here we go, we can move up and say hello to the tanker captain. Make sure we don't overlap our wingtips because it would be very bad if we reversed into the aircraft, that would be bad. And that looks pretty epic as it is. Here we can do our pre-refuel checks. I'll try and quickly one-arm paper hanger it, put my probe out. Sweet, and now we are ready to move astern. So we can either call ready, or he'll see that we've got our probe out and he'll clear us astern, the left or the right. So we'll drop back and down, not too fast in our movements. I want to get just past the drogue, about 15 feet, bit of power to stabilise, and then we'll move across. Now Americans like to join, I think they like to join directly astern, but I like doing it this method because it looks pretty cool. Okay, top tips for you. If you're struggling with tanking, it may well be because of the formation flying, and I've found that all Microsoft flight sim fast jets are very, very twitchy. So in actual fact, this is probably harder work than it needs to be, but it is what it is. It's still good fun, but very, very twitchy. Okay, so some of what I'll be doing is work around. In terms of forward and back, the other thing I found that when you're learning a new jet is it's really easy to over control, especially in F-35 with lots of power. So top left of the MFD you can see the power, and if you want to stabilise about 280 knots, about 25 to 30 is where you want to be, and just get used to where that power setting is on the controller that you're using, and try not to be overly aggressive with it, otherwise you'll find yourself moving in and out like some sort of, I don't know, insert your own metaphor there. Alright, 15 feet astern is where you want to be, nicely trimmed. If you're bouncing around there is no point trying it because you'll just be relying on luck, and we want a bit of consistency. So we're reasonable here, this is nice, I like it. Probe is ready, everything's trimmed, we're clear to contact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to formate on the HDU, so that's the hose drum unit I believe, or hoodoo, whatever you call it. Which is the thing on the wing that holds the hose. So I'm using the 10-degree climb mark and the hook on the right hand side of it, just overlapping the hole of the hoodoo, and that seems to be a good place that when I drive in on that reference that the basket should meet the probe. So let's give that a go. Walking pace forwards, keep driving it in, hopefully it works. Come on, gently, 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 gently. Oh, now you can see the basket moved in there. And that's because I've set it to, I think, Pro as opposed to Ace. Now in Ace, I think it expects you to hit the middle each time, and it's properly difficult and a little unrealistic. But on the flip side, Pro, like, it does what it just shows and moves the basket. But we're here, and you can see that walking pace forwards means that we don't overshoot. We can stabilise in the green light. And the other marks you'd have normally in real life, you'd have a white line on the hose that gives you like a min max ideal length. And you can use how the hose coils around the drum unit. So about 2/3 from the left would be ideal, but that's not modelled in this version. And I'm just keeping that 10-degree climb mark over the hoodoo. And that works. You want to have a natural curve in the hose. You don't want to sit too high, otherwise you'll hit the wingtip vortices and that'll spit you out. You don't want to sit too low because you don't want to break the probe tip. Probe tips are designed to shear in case there's some sort of overstress, so that can happen and does happen. And then you just sit here and enjoy the view, and this view is properly epic. So for those that keep asking, I use NVIDIA filters just to reduce the reddish hue, up the contrast a little bit, and I have to say this looks pretty good for what it looks like in real life, because they always look very crisp, high contrast and a bit clean once you're above the clouds in the sunshine. It's one of the most amazing things to actually do for real. And this is a decent halfway house. It's decent. So whilst you sat here, if you had your radios dialed in, you could perhaps talk to whichever controller is taking you forward the departure, and you aim to depart 1,000 feet high in whichever direction you need to go. Let's talk about exiting then. So we've either been told we've got enough gas, or we've filled to full, and we're cleared to disconnect. So last time I did this, there was a funny thing where it was actually pulling the aircraft along. It wouldn't let me disconnect, and I wonder if that's a thing with Pro. It doesn't let you drop out so easy, but it was a little bit too difficult to disconnect. So we'll see what we get. And you want to leave the drogue exactly where you found it, so where it would naturally fall in the airflow. Otherwise, as soon as you disconnect, it will flail all over the place, or it would do. So as I move back, about walking pace, it's really easy to over control, so we'll try our best. And then exit, and then stay about 15 feet astern like we did pre-join. So here we go, moving back. Keep it coming, and there we go again. It's not letting me disconnect. It's literally pulling me along. How weird is that? Alright, so let's try and do it a little bit more energetically, which I wouldn't do for real, but we need to disconnect. There we go. A bit more speed on it. There we go. A bit more power. So I've dropped back way more than I would do otherwise, but we're here. The drogue was in the right place. Now we're stable, and we get to clear to reform right, so we're checking to make sure nobody's in our way, and moving across. Bit of bank on, bank off. Make sure you avoid the jet wash. It's not modelled, but good technique. Avoid the wingtips, get some lateral separation, and then move forwards, up and in to your reform right position. Once you're here, we can put our probe in, do our post-refuel checks, departure checks, make sure we've got our clearance. And this is the case of just really making sure you've got the throttle set correctly before you look away and start clicking buttons. Really should find what the keybind is, if there is one for the probe. Okay, that's reasonable. Refuel done. Thank you. A bit too fast. And that endeth the mission. So that was good fun. Now next time I'll try it with advanced, but it takes a lot more finesse and it's a bit tricky, or a bit too tricky in the sim. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, like and subscribe. Let's do a lag roll to finish because it looks cool. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, take care.